You are not attracting the wrong people. You are attracting what feels familiar, even when it hurts. Last year you said you would never fall for that type again. Yet months later, a different face showed up with the same pattern. The names change, the faces shift, but somehow the story stays eerily the same. You find yourself in the middle of another relationship that feels like a rerun of something you have already lived through, and you wonder if you are cursed, if something is fundamentally wrong with you, or if the universe is playing some cruel joke on your heart. Think about the moments you know too well, the ones that sit heavy in your chest at night when you cannot sleep, the ones where you are staring at your phone, waiting for a text back, wondering if you said something wrong, replaying every word of your last conversation, trying to figure out where things went cold. The moments where you catch yourself making excuses for their behavior to your friends, explaining away the coldness, the distance, the inconsistency, the way they cancel plans at the last minute, or go silent for days without explanation. You hear yourself saying things like, "They are just busy right now," or "They have been going through a lot lately," or "They are not really good at expressing their feelings." And somewhere deep inside you know these are not explanations, but justifications for treatment you would never accept from anyone else. The times you forgave them for the 5th time, even though you swore on your life there would never be a 4th. You remember sitting on the edge of your bed, tears streaming down your face, telling yourself this was the absolute last time, that you deserved better, that you were finally done, that no amount of charm or apology could pull you back in. But then they smiled at you in that particular way, the one that made your defenses crumble, or they said something that felt like an apology even though it never actually included the words, "I am sorry," and suddenly all your resolve melted like snow in summer. You went right back, not because you wanted to, but because something in you could not resist the pull. How many times have you stayed, not because they deserved you, but because the chaos felt familiar? How many times have you chosen the storm over the calm, the uncertainty over the peace, the person who keeps you guessing over the one who shows up consistently and makes their intentions clear? You might think this is just bad luck, that somehow the universe keeps sending you the wrong people, like you are carrying some invisible sign that attracts dysfunction. Maybe you have even started to believe that you are destined to repeat this cycle forever, that this is just your fate, that healthy love is something other people experience, but not you. Your friends tell you that you have terrible taste in partners, that you need to stop going for the same type, that maybe you should try dating someone completely different from your usual preference. And you have tried. You have swiped right on different profiles, said yes to dates with people who seemed safe and stable, given chances to the ones your friends approved of. But somehow, even when they look different on the outside, even when their job or background or style is nothing like the last person, they end up behaving in the exact same way. The pattern repeats with such precision that it starts to feel less like coincidence and more like something deeper is at work. But here is what you need to understand, and it might sting a little. It might make you uncomfortable. It might challenge everything you thought you knew about love and attraction. It is not bad luck. It is not destiny. It is not because everyone out there is toxic or broken or emotionally unavailable. Your brain is not searching for the right person. It is searching for the familiar feeling. This is not a conscious choice. You are not waking up in the morning thinking to yourself that you want to find someone who will hurt you, someone who will make you feel small, someone who will trigger your deepest insecurities. Nobody chooses pain on purpose. But your subconscious mind, the part of you that operates below your awareness, has been trained by your past experiences to recognize certain emotional patterns as normal, as home, as love. And when you meet someone who triggers that pattern, your nervous system lights up with recognition, and your brain interprets that recognition as chemistry, as connection, as fate. This is where everything shifts, where the light starts to break through the confusion. There is a concept that explains exactly why you keep ending up in the same situation with different people, and it is called wound matching. You attract people who align with the wounds you have not healed yet. Think of it like this: your unresolved pain, your unprocessed trauma, your unhealed emotional injuries. They all send out a signal, a frequency that broadcasts below the surface of your conscious interactions. And certain people who are carrying their own unhealed wounds, people who are operating on a similar wavelength, they pick up on that frequency. They recognize it because it matches something inside them, because they too are carrying unprocessed pain that resonates with yours. This creates what psychologists call an emotional pattern loop. You repeat the same relationship dynamics over and over because that is the emotional environment you understand, the one your nervous system knows how to navigate, even if that navigation involves pain. It is not that you are consciously choosing pain. It is that your nervous system recognizes the pattern, and in a twisted way. It feels safer to be in a painful situation that you understand than to be in a healthy situation that feels unfamiliar and therefore unpredictable. Your patterns do not wait for your permission. They choose for you, automatically, unconsciously, running on autopilot in the background of your life, until you become aware enough to interrupt them, to question them, to consciously decide that you are ready to choose differently. Let me paint you a picture of what this actually costs you, the invisible price you pay every single day for staying in these patterns. You lie awake at 2:41 in the morning, the room dark and quiet, except for the sound of your own breathing and the relentless noise of your thoughts. You are rewriting a text message for the 5th time, trying to sound casual, trying not to seem too eager, too needy. Too much. You delete the heart emoji because maybe that is too forward. You add it back because maybe without it you sound cold. You delete it again and replace it with a simple period, then question if that seems passive-aggressive. Your chest feels tight, anxiety wrapping around your ribs like a vice, because you know they saw your message 3 hours ago. You saw the read receipt, the 2 little check marks that confirmed they opened it, read it, and chose not to respond. But there has been nothing but silence, and that silence is eating you alive, consuming your peace, occupying every available space in your mind. During the day, you are constantly trying to decode their mood, becoming an amateur psychologist, analyzing every word they say, every pause in conversation, every shift in their tone, every emoji they use or do not use. You become a detective of their emotions while completely abandoning your own. You stop asking for what you need because you have learned through painful repetition that your needs make you inconvenient, that expressing desires or boundaries or expectations pushes people away. You shrink yourself down, making yourself smaller and quieter, taking up less space, dimming your light, hoping that if you reduce yourself enough, if you become low maintenance enough, if you stop being so much, they will finally have room to love you. You start believing that love is something you have to earn, something you have to deserve, something that comes after you have proven yourself worthy enough. Through service, through patience, through accepting treatment that makes you feel less than. And the worst part, the part that hurts most when you finally see it clearly, is that you lose yourself in the process. You become so focused on winning their affection, on solving the puzzle of how to make them stay, on becoming whatever version of yourself they seem to want, that you forget what you actually wanted in the first place. You forget what brought you joy before you met them. You forget what your own opinions were before you started molding them to match theirs. You forget who you were before you started building your entire identity around being enough for someone who was never going to see your worth anyway. Here is the paradox that nobody talks about, the uncomfortable truth that will make you question everything you thought you knew about attraction and chemistry. The healthier you become, the fewer people you feel drawn to. When you start healing, When you begin doing the inner work of processing your trauma and building genuine self-worth and learning to treat yourself with the kindness you have always extended to others, something strange and disorienting happens. The people you used to find exciting, the ones who made your heart race and your stomach flip, they suddenly seem exhausting. The ones who used to intrigue you with their mystery and complexity now just look emotionally unavailable and unwilling to do their own healing work. The drama that used to feel like passion, like intensity, like the proof that you were really alive and really in love, now just feels like chaos, like unnecessary turbulence, like a storm you no longer want to stand in. And the kind, stable, emotionally available people? The ones who communicate clearly and show up consistently and do not make you guess where you stand, they start to feel boring. You might even feel uncomfortable around them, like something is wrong, like it is too easy, too simple, too good to be true. You wait for the other shoe to drop, for the moment when they reveal their true colors, because surely nobody is actually this healthy, this straightforward, this genuinely kind. This is because you are not actually attracted to people. You are attracted to feelings. And if healthy love does not trigger that familiar cocktail of anxiety, uncertainty, and the desperate need to prove yourself, if it does not activate that wound that makes you feel like you have to earn affection, your brain does not recognize it as love at all. It registers as bland, as flat, as lacking chemistry. But that is not the absence of chemistry. That is the absence of chaos. And your nervous system, trained by years of equating love with uncertainty, has been conditioned to confuse the two. What you are calling chemistry is often just trauma recognition, your wounded parts recognizing wounded parts in someone else, and mistaking that recognition for destiny. Let us talk about the traps that keep you locked in this cycle, the invisible chains that feel so real you forget they are not actually physical restraints. There is the fear of being alone, the terror that sits in your chest like a stone when you imagine not having anyone, even if the someone you have barely shows up for you, even if their presence brings more pain than peace. This fear whispers that being with the wrong person is better than being with no person at all. That loneliness is the worst possible outcome, worse than betrayal, worse than disrespect, worse than the slow erosion of your self-worth. There is the fear of abandonment, the one that makes you cling tighter even when every instinct tells you to let go, the one that has you checking your phone every 30 seconds, monitoring their social media activity, analyzing who they are liking and commenting on, trying to predict when they are going to leave so maybe you can prevent it, or at least brace yourself for the impact. And then there is the fear that whispers the cruelest lie of all, that no one else will choose you, that this is as good as it gets, that you should be grateful for whatever scraps of affection come your way, because at least it is something, at least someone wants you. Even if that wanting is conditional and inconsistent and makes you feel worse about yourself than you did before you met them. These fears are powerful because they do not feel like fears. They feel like facts. They feel like truth. They feel like the inevitable reality of your life. So when someone hurts you, when they cross your boundaries or dismiss your feelings or make you feel small or talk to you in a way that you would never tolerate from a stranger, you swallow it. You tell yourself it is not that bad. You convince yourself that relationships take work, that nobody is perfect, that maybe you are being too sensitive, too dramatic, too demanding. You gaslight yourself into accepting the unacceptable. And then they disappear. They pull back. They go silent. They leave you hanging in that awful space of not knowing, that relationship purgatory where you are not officially broken up, but you are not really together either. 3 days pass. Your anxiety peaks. Every notification makes your heart jump, hoping it is them, disappointed when it is not. You have convinced yourself it is over this time, that they are really gone, that you finally pushed them too far with your needs or your emotions or your expectations. And then they come back with a soft apology, or maybe just a casual text acting like nothing happened, like they did not just put you through days of emotional turmoil. Hey, sorry I have been MIA, work has been crazy. Want to hang out? And suddenly, like magic, like some kind of spell that you cannot break, you forget every ounce of pain you swore you would never tolerate again. The relief of their return. The dopamine hit of their attention coming back. It overrides the memory of their absence. And the cycle continues, spinning faster, digging deeper, becoming more entrenched with each repetition. But there comes a moment, and it arrives differently for everyone. For some it is gradual, a slow accumulation of small realizations that eventually reach a tipping point. For others it hits like lightning, sudden and striking and impossible to ignore. It is the moment when you look in the mirror, really look, not just at your physical reflection, but at the person you have become. And something shifts. You are not afraid of losing them anymore. You are afraid of losing the version of yourself that was built around trying to keep them. You realize that you have been so busy trying to be enough for someone else that you forgot to be anything for yourself. You have been so focused on their needs, their moods, their schedule, their preferences, that you cannot remember the last time you checked in with your own. Your self-respect, which has been dormant, buried under layers of people-pleasing and self-betrayal and the desperate need to make it work, suddenly wakes up. And it is angry. It is tired. It is done. It looks at the situation with clear eyes and says, "No more, we are not doing this anymore. We deserve better than this." You do not want to earn anyone's kindness anymore. You do not want to audition for the role of being loved, performing your worthiness over and over while they sit back and judge whether you have done enough to deserve their affection. You do not want to convince anyone of your value, to prove that you are worth choosing, to make the case for why you should be treated with basic respect and consideration. For the first time in a long time, perhaps for the first time in your entire adult life, you feel something other than fear. You feel clarity. And with that clarity comes a choice, stark and simple and terrifying. You can stay and continue the loop. Keep riding the same roller coaster, keep having the same fights and the same makeups and the same cycle of hope and disappointment. Or you can walk away and face the unknown, step into the uncertainty of being alone. Trust that there is something better waiting, even though you cannot see it yet. The fear does not disappear. Walking away is still scary. Being alone is still uncomfortable. But for the first time, the fear of staying, of losing yourself completely, of waking up in 5 years and realizing you wasted them on someone who never valued you, that fear becomes greater than the fear of leaving. Let me tell you about Sarah, because her story is the story of so many people who find themselves trapped in these patterns without understanding why. She is 32 years old, lives in Portland in a small apartment in the Pearl District, works in marketing for a tech startup. And if you asked her friends to describe her, they would say she is smart, funny, accomplished, creative, successful in every area of her life except one. She is somehow always dating men who do not deserve her, men who take more than they give, men who make her feel like she is too much and not enough at the same time. Sarah has a type, or at least that is what everyone tells her. She is drawn to the creatives, the artists, the musicians, the writers, the emotionally complex ones who see the world differently, the guys who are brilliant and brooding and just a little bit broken. There was Marcus, the musician who could only express affection after 2 drinks and a good show, who wrote songs about love and connection but could not seem to offer either in real life. There was Tyler, the photographer who loved her intensely for 3 weeks, showed up at her door with flowers and handwritten notes and promises of forever, and then slowly, silently pulled away until she was the only one fighting for the relationship, sending texts that went unanswered, making plans that he would cancel. Eventually having to have the humiliating conversation where she asked what changed, and he just shrugged and said, "I do not know. I guess I just lost the feeling." And then there was James. James was different, or so Sarah thought when they first met at a poetry reading downtown. He was a writer, deep and thoughtful, with eyes that seemed to see right through her walls. Their first conversation lasted 4 hours, sitting in a coffee shop that was trying to close, the barista giving them pointed looks while they talked about childhood and dreams and the wounds their families had left them with. The connection felt electric, like finally meeting someone who understood her on a soul level. But 3 months in, after the honeymoon phase faded, the pattern emerged like a familiar ghost. He would be warm and present for a few days, texting her good morning and good night, making plans for the weekend, telling her how much she meant to him. Then he would be distant and detached for a week, sometimes longer, his texts becoming short and infrequent, his excuses piling up about why he could not see her. Sarah never knew which version of him she would get. She found herself constantly adjusting, constantly anxious, constantly wondering what she had done wrong, what she could do differently, how she could bring back the version of James who made her feel seen and cherished. She walked on eggshells, afraid that one wrong word would push him further away. She stopped bringing up things that bothered her because every time she did, he would withdraw even more. She became smaller and smaller, hoping that if she needed less, he would have more to give. Then Sarah met Evan, and everything she thought she knew about attraction got turned upside down. They matched on a dating app, one of those apps Sarah had deleted and re-downloaded probably 15 times, always with the same mix of hope and cynicism. Evan's profile was straightforward. No moody black and white photos, no quotes from obscure poets, no pictures of him looking pensively into the distance. Just a normal guy, smiling at a barbecue, holding a dog, standing in front of a classroom because he was a teacher. They went for coffee at a place near her apartment, and the conversation flowed easily. Evan was a high school English teacher. He texted back consistently, never leaving her hanging for days, wondering if she had said something wrong. He made plans in advance, actual plans with specific times and places, not vague suggestions of maybe hanging out sometime. He asked about her day and actually remembered her answers, bringing up things she had mentioned in previous conversations, showing that he was paying attention, that she mattered to him. He did not play games. He did not make her guess how he felt. He was clear about his interest, clear about his intentions, emotionally available in a way that should have felt refreshing, that should have been exactly what she claimed she wanted. But instead, Sarah felt nothing. No butterflies, no electricity, no pull. When they texted, she would sometimes forget to respond for hours, not because she was playing hard to get, but because she genuinely did not feel that magnetic draw to talk to him. She found herself making excuses not to see him, suddenly remembering plans she had forgotten about, or claiming she was too tired from work. She would agree to dates, and then feel a strange sense of dread as they approached. This inexplicable resistance to spending time with someone who was kind and interesting and clearly cared about her. After their 4th date, after they had gone to dinner and walked around the waterfront and talked about books and teaching and the difference between loving something and being good at it, Evan walked her to her car and kissed her gently. It was a nice kiss. He was respectful, attentive, present. And Sarah felt something unexpected rise up in her chest. Panic. Not because Evan did anything wrong, not because the kiss was bad, but because everything felt too right, too stable, too safe. It felt like standing on solid ground after years of trying to find balance on shifting sand, and somehow the solid ground felt more terrifying than the instability she had grown accustomed to. That night she lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, unable to sleep, and realized something that made her stomach drop and her chest tighten with the weight of recognition. She was not afraid of Evan. She was afraid of the kind of love he represented. She was afraid of someone who would not make her chase, who would not make her prove herself, who would not trigger that familiar ache of not being quite enough. She was afraid of someone who would show up consistently, who would communicate clearly, who would treat her with the respect and kindness she had always claimed she wanted, but had never actually experienced in a romantic relationship. For the first time in her life, Sarah understood something profound and painful. The problem was not that she kept finding the wrong men. The problem was that her nervous system had been trained, conditioned through years of watching her father come and go from her childhood home, through her first relationship in college with a guy who cheated on her and then blamed her for not being interesting enough to keep his attention, through every subsequent relationship where love was something uncertain and conditional. Her nervous system had been trained to recognize love as uncertainty, affection as something earned through effort and sacrifice, and connection as something fragile that could break at any moment if she was not careful enough. She was not afraid of Evan. She was afraid of healthy love. And that realization, that moment of seeing herself clearly, changed everything. It did not change overnight. She did not suddenly become comfortable with Evan's consistency or immediately break her attraction to emotionally unavailable men. But she saw the pattern, and seeing it was the first step to changing it. So let us redefine what is really happening here, strip away the surface explanations, and look at the deeper truth. When we say someone attracts the wrong people, what we are actually describing is this. You are attracting from a place of fear, not desire. You are attracting from your wounds, not your wholeness. You are attracting from the emotional patterns that were carved into you long before you even understood what love was supposed to feel like. Patterns that formed in childhood, in your first relationships, in the moments when you learned what you had to do to receive affection or attention or approval. Maybe you grew up watching one parent chase the other parent's affection, seeing love modeled as something you pursue rather than something you share equally. Maybe you learned early that love was conditional, that you had to be good enough, quiet enough, impressive enough, helpful enough to deserve it. Maybe your first heartbreak taught you that vulnerability equals pain, and you have been guarding yourself ever since while simultaneously seeking someone who will break through those walls because that is the only way you know how to feel alive. The truth is, you do not attract what you want. You attract what you are emotionally compatible with. And if you are emotionally compatible with chaos, with uncertainty, with the need to prove your worth, with the dynamic of pursuing someone who is pulling away, that is what will keep showing up in your life, wearing different faces but playing the same role. Here is where it gets deep, where we arrive at the core insight that can change everything if you let it. You stop attracting the wrong people the moment you stop betraying yourself. Read that again. Let it sink in. Every time you ignore your gut feeling, that instinct that tells you something is off, every time you make excuses for behavior that does not meet your standards, every time you stay when every cell in your body is telling you to go, every time you accept treatment that makes you feel bad about yourself, you are betraying yourself. And each betrayal sends a signal, not just to the other person, but to your own subconscious. A signal that says your boundaries are negotiable, your needs are optional, and your peace is less important than keeping someone else comfortable. Self-respect is not something you think about or talk about or post quotes about on social media. It is something you practice through your choices, through the daily decisions you make about what you will and will not accept, about what you walk toward and what you walk away from. It is the strongest filter you will ever have, more powerful than any dating app algorithm or friend's advice or list of qualities you are looking for. When you truly respect yourself, when you genuinely value your own peace, your own time, your own emotional energy, you become incompatible with people who do not. It is not that you are judging them or deciding they are bad people or thinking you are better than them. It is that your nervous system no longer recognizes dysfunction as home. The frequency changes. And when the frequency changes, when you are operating from a place of self-worth rather than self-doubt, different people start showing up. Or the same types of people show up, but you see them clearly now. You recognize the red flags before you are in too deep. You trust yourself enough to walk away before the pattern can take hold. Healing does not mean you will suddenly only attract perfect people, because perfect people do not exist. It means you will recognize dysfunction faster. You will see the red flags you used to ignore, the ones you would rationalize away or convince yourself were not that important. You will feel the inconsistency you used to rationalize, the way someone's words do not match their actions, the way they say they care but never show up when it matters. And most importantly, you will trust yourself enough to walk away before you are in too deep, before you have invested so much time and emotion and hope that leaving feels impossible. You will understand that choosing yourself is not selfish. It is the most loving thing you can do, both for yourself and for the other person. Because staying in a relationship that does not serve either of you, staying out of fear or obligation or the sunk cost of time already invested, that is not love. That is just two people using each other to avoid facing themselves, to avoid sitting with their own pain and doing the work of healing it. Picture this moment. You are sitting alone in your apartment on a random Thursday evening. The person who used to occupy all your mental space, the one you thought you could not live without, the one whose absence felt like missing a limb, has not texted in 6 days. And here is what is different this time. You are not spiraling. You are not checking their social media to see if they are active, to see if they are ignoring you or just busy, to look for clues about what they are doing and who they are with. You are not drafting and deleting messages, trying to find the perfect combination of words that will make them respond, that will remind them you exist, that will make them want you again. You are just sitting there, maybe reading a book or watching something you actually want to watch instead of something you think they would approve of. And you realize something profound. You are okay. The silence that used to suffocate you now feels like space. The absence that used to trigger panic now feels like peace. You have been here before, in this exact emotional place, waiting for someone to choose you, but this time you are not trying to fill the void with someone else's presence. You are learning to be comfortable in your own company. You are learning that your worth does not fluctuate based on who does or does not choose you. You are learning that love, real love, does not require you to abandon yourself. When you close the door gently on the wrong person, when you finally choose yourself over the familiar pattern, you will notice something that surprises you. Silence does not hurt anymore. It feels like peace. The space they used to occupy, the mental and emotional energy you used to spend analyzing their behavior and managing their moods and trying to make them happy, starts filling with things that actually matter. Your own thoughts, your own dreams, your own goals. You remember the version of yourself you were before you started shape-shifting to fit someone else's needs, before you learned to read rooms and adjust your personality and hide the parts of yourself that might be too much. And slowly, carefully, like tending to something fragile and new, you start rebuilding. Not the old version of yourself, because you cannot go back, and you should not want to, but something new, someone who knows their worth, not because someone else validated it, but because you decided it for yourself. Someone who understands that being alone is better than being with someone who makes you feel lonely. Someone who knows that the right people do not make you question your value. They reflect it back to you. You are not cursed. You are not broken. You are not destined to repeat this pattern forever. You are simply living out a lesson you have not fully learned yet. And today can be the day you start learning it differently. Today can be the day you stop looking for love in people who cannot give it and start becoming the person who no longer needs to search for it externally. Today can be the day you realize that the relationship you have been trying to fix has always been the one with yourself. Everything else is just a reflection of that. The people you attract will change when you change. The love you receive will shift when you shift what you are willing to accept. Your patterns will break when you become conscious enough to see them, brave enough to question them, and strong enough to choose differently. This is not about becoming perfect. This is not about never making mistakes or never feeling drawn to the wrong person again. This is about building enough awareness that when you feel that old familiar pull, that gravitational force toward chaos and uncertainty, you pause, you breathe, you ask yourself what you are really seeking, and you choose based on your values, not your wounds. If you are ready to break your pattern, comment below and write these words. I am done repeating the same lesson. Say it out loud. Write it down. Let it be a declaration to yourself and to the universe that you are ready for something different. Share this message with someone who keeps choosing the wrong people, someone who needs to hear that they are not alone in this struggle, that there is a way out, that change is possible. And if you want more content that helps you heal, grow, and love differently, content that challenges you to look deeper and choose better, follow this channel, because the journey does not end here. It is just beginning, and you deserve to see where it goes when you finally start choosing yourself.